The world is drowning in quick fixes, in 7-day promises that evaporate by day 8. You're told you can become unrecognizable in a week, that a challenge will magically unlock some hidden power. But deep down, you know the truth. You feel the hollowness of these fleeting solutions. The hunger for something more substantial, something real gnaws at you. This isn't about another temporary high. This is about understanding the core philosophy behind dangerous power, more than just a 7-day fix. This dangerous power we speak of isn't about dominating others or wielding some dark force. It's the silent, unshakable sovereignty you cultivate within yourself. It's the strength to become truly unrecognizable, not to the world, but to the weaker, hesitant, excuse-making version of yourself that you've tolerated for too long. It's the power to dismantle your own limitations, to face down your inner demons, and to build a mindset so formidable that mediocrity cannot find a foothold. This is about radical, enduring transformation, forged in the fires of discipline and self-mastery, rooted in timeless principles that laugh in the face of fleeting trends. Forget the shortcuts. Today we delve into the bedrock, the unyielding foundations upon which true, lasting power is built. This is the arduous path, the one that demands everything from you, and in return gives you everything that matters: control, resilience, and an unbreakable spirit. If you're ready to move beyond the superficial and commit to the profound, then listen closely. The first cornerstone, the absolute bedrock of this philosophy, is the citadel of the unconquered mind, forging your inner sanctum. True dangerous power isn't found in the muscles you build, the money you accumulate, or the influence you wield over others. These are external, fragile, and ultimately beyond your complete command. The genesis, the operational headquarters, and the final refuge of all genuine power resides within the sovereign territory of your own mind. It begins and ends with the stark, liberating realization that your internal landscape, your thoughts, your interpretations, your judgments, and your responses is the only domain where you can, with discipline, reign supreme. This is the central tenet of Stoic wisdom, a truth as unyielding today as it was millennia ago. Most wander through life with the gates of their minds wide open, unguarded. Every fleeting opinion from the crowd, every surge of fear broadcast by the media, every whisper of self-doubt from within finds easy entry, ransacking their peace and dictating their actions. Their internal world is a chaotic marketplace, not a fortified citadel. They chase control over external events, over the whims of others, over the uncontrollable tides of fate, and find only frustration and anxiety. They believe power lies out there. This is the fundamental error, the source of perpetual weakness. The mental warfare we speak of isn't some grand abstract conflict. It is the daily, moment-to-moment battle for the integrity of your inner space. It's the fight against the incessant chatter of the undisciplined mind, the tyranny of negative thought loops, the insidious campaigns of your inner critic, and the endless siren calls of distraction that seek to pull you away from your purpose. This isn't about achieving some mystical state of no thought or mind control in the popular, misunderstood sense. You cannot simply stop the river of thoughts, but you can learn to stand on the bank, observing its flow, choosing which currents to navigate, which to ignore, and which debris to clear. It is about mind discipline, the rigorous training of your attention and your ascent. Imagine an ancient, secluded order, known in hushed whispers as the Aegis Keepers. Their fortress was not built of stone and mortar, accessible by any road. It was a metaphorical citadel, erected within the consciousness of each member, and its sole treasure was a single, unwavering flame, the flame of pure volition. Their training was not in the art of war with shield and spear, but in the far more demanding combat of perception and response. Initiates were subjected to meticulously crafted illusions, storms of despair, phantom armies of doubt, seductive mirages of ease and escape. They weren't taught to fight these apparitions, for that would give them substance. They were trained to observe them with unwavering stillness, to recognize their transient nature, to let them pass like shadows over a sunlit wall, leaving the flame of volition untouched, burning steadily. They learned that the power of these phantoms lay not in their inherent strength, but in the belief and reaction they elicited. To achieve dangerous power is to become such an aegis keeper for your own mind, to stand sentinel over your inner flame, to discern illusion from reality, and to grant access only to that which strengthens and aligns with your deepest purpose. Neglect this inner citadel, and your mind becomes a breeding ground for anxiety, a playground for overthinking, a dungeon of your own making. You become reactive, a leaf blown by the winds of circumstance, your moods and decisions held hostage by external triggers. Your potential remains locked away, guarded by the very fears and doubts you've allowed to take root. But cultivate this inner sanctum with relentless discipline, and the rewards are immeasurable. You forge an emotional resilience that can weather any storm. You gain a clarity of thought that cuts through confusion like a sharpened blade. You discover an inner peace that persists even when the world outside is in turmoil. You develop the capacity for deliberate, purposeful action, free from the paralysis of fear or the impulsiveness of reactivity. This is the foundation upon which all other aspects of dangerous power are built. How do you begin this construction, this fortification? First, the daily internal audit. Like a vigilant watchman patrolling the city walls, you must consciously observe the traffic of your thoughts. Without judgment, simply notice. What patterns emerge? Are there recurring anxieties, self-deprecating narratives, habitual resentments? Awareness is the first step to control. You cannot fight an enemy you do not see. Second, master the power of reframe. This is a core Stoic technology. No event is inherently good or bad. It is your interpretation that makes it so. Practice looking at challenges not as roadblocks, but as opportunities to learn, to grow stronger, to demonstrate virtue. If you lose a contract, it's an opportunity to analyze your approach, to innovate, or to demonstrate resilience. If someone insults you, it's an opportunity to practice patience and emotional non-reactivity. Third, develop your inner Praetorian Guard, your commanding voice. Your inner critic has had the megaphone for too long. It's time to cultivate a new internal dialogue, one that is stern, disciplined, rational, and aligned with your highest self. When the voice of doubt whispers, "You can't do this," your Praetorian Guard responds with calm authority. "This is difficult, therefore it is necessary. I will proceed with discipline." Speak to yourself as Marcus Aurelius might have spoken to himself during a difficult campaign, with resolve, with reason, with a focus on duty and virtue. Fourth, the strategic dismissal of non-essential thoughts. Your mental energy is a finite, precious resource. Do not squander it on trivialities, on anxieties about things you cannot control, or on replaying past grievances. Learn to categorize thoughts. Is this productive? Is this actionable? Is this within my control? If not, practice a mental delete command. You might even schedule a brief 10-minute worry window per day. If anxious thoughts arise outside this window, defer them. I will consider this at 5 p.m. Often, by the time 5 p.m. arrives, the anxiety has lost its charge, or you see it more clearly. This practice isn't about suppression. It's about asserting your authority over when and how you engage your mental resources. Building this citadel is not a weekend project. It is the patient, daily work of a master mason, laying one stone of disciplined thought upon another, until your inner sanctum stands impenetrable, a source of unshakable strength and clarity. From the fortified mind, we move to the engine of action, the crucible of deliberate hardship, architecting indomitable will. If the citadel of the mind is your command center, then an indomitable will is your elite fighting force, forged not in comfort but in fire. Dangerous power, the kind that reshapes you from the inside out, is diametrically opposed to the modern world's obsession with ease. Society sells you a dream of perpetual comfort, a life free of friction. But this dream is a trap. Comfort breeds softness. Ease cultivates weakness. The relentless pursuit of convenience erodes the very foundations of inner strength. True, lasting power, the kind that makes you unrecognizable to your former self, is not found on plush cushions. It is hammered out on the anvil of deliberate, voluntary hardship. This is where the ubiquitous 7-day fixes and quick-win challenges reveal their utter inadequacy. They offer a taste, a fleeting sensation of accomplishment, but they do not build the deep, resilient structures of will. An indomitable will is not a feature you can download or a habit you can install in a week. It is a fundamental characteristic, like the grain of hardened steel, developed through consistent, intentional exposure to difficulty. The mantra "no excuses" ceases to be a motivational poster slogan and becomes the unshakable operational code of your existence. It means that when discomfort arises, when the path becomes steep, when your internal resistance screams for you to quit, you recognize it not as a signal to stop, but as the very environment in which your will is being tempered. It is crucial here to distinguish between pointless, involuntary suffering and the deliberate, purposeful embrace of hardship. We are not advocating for masochism or the seeking of misery for its own sake. We are speaking of the strategic engagement with challenges that stretch your limits, be they physical, intellectual, emotional, or spiritual. It's the decision to take the cold shower when a warm one beckons. It's choosing the complex project over the easy win. It's initiating the difficult conversation you've been avoiding. It's pushing for 5 more reps when your muscles burn. Each voluntary act of confronting and overcoming resistance chisels away at your weakness and lays another layer of strength onto your will. This is the authentic alpha mindset, not a shallow display of dominance over others, but the profound, quiet mastery over your own innate aversion to discomfort, your own primal urge to seek the path of least resistance. Consider the apocryphal tales of the volitional forging masters. They were not artisans of metal, but sculptors of human character. Aspiring apprentices who sought their tutelage were not given textbooks or gentle instruction. They were sent into what was known as the silent scourge, not a physical desert, but a meticulously tailored period of extreme psychological and physical challenge, designed to strip away every artifice, every excuse, every layer of acquired softness. Some faced profound isolation, forced to rely solely on their inner resources. Others were given tasks that seemed impossible, designed to break them, to force them to confront the very limits of their perceived capabilities and then push beyond them. The only tools provided were the core principles of self-reliance and mental fortitude taught by the forging masters. Most apprentices failed, unable to endure the relentless pressure, retreating to the predictable comforts of their former lives. But those who persevered, those who learned not just to endure the hardship but to find their strength within it, who discovered the wellspring of resilience deep inside when all external supports were removed, emerged transformed. There was no longer a fluctuating mood, but a core component of their being as unyielding and reliable as the northern star. The forging masters understood a fundamental truth: that which is not rigorously tested cannot be ultimately trusted. Your will is no different. It must be subjected to the crucible. The avoidance of this forging process leads to a predictable, tragic outcome, a life of quiet compromise, of unfulfilled potential, of perpetual vulnerability. You remain fragile, easily broken by life's inevitable storms. Your resolutions crumble at the first sign of difficulty. Your dreams remain just dreams, because the chasm between aspiration and achievement can only be bridged by a will strong enough to endure the journey. But embrace the crucible. Make deliberate hardship your training ground, and the benefits are profound. You cultivate an unshakable mental toughness that sees you through any adversity. You develop a deep, quiet self-respect born not from hollow affirmations, but from the proven knowledge of your own capacity to endure and overcome. You transform pressure from a crushing weight into a motivating force. You become not just resilient, but antifragile, actually growing stronger from challenges. How do you step into this crucible? First, the daily discomfort inoculation. Do not wait for life to force hardship upon you. Actively seek out small, manageable doses of discomfort every single day. This could be the aforementioned cold shower. It could be waking up an hour earlier to work on a difficult personal project. It could be choosing the stairs over the elevator. It could be deliberately engaging in a mentally taxing task when you feel lazy. These small, consistent exposures build your tolerance and recalibrate your definition of hard. Second, the practice of voluntary restriction. Periodically and intentionally deny yourself certain comforts or pleasures that you normally take for granted. This could be a 24-hour fast from food, a week-long digital detox, a month of no alcohol or junk food. This practice achieves two things. It breaks your patterns of dependence and heightens your appreciation for what you have. And more importantly, it strengthens your will by proving you can operate effectively even when deprived of external crutches. You learn that your well-being is not solely dependent on these things. Third, the alchemy of failure. Society teaches you to fear failure. The philosophy of dangerous power teaches you to reframe it. Failure is not an indictment of your worth, it is simply data. It is an integral part of the forging process. When you attempt something difficult and fall short, you are not weaker, you are more informed. Each setback, when analyzed and learned from and followed by renewed effort, tempers your will and teaches you resilience. The only true failure is the failure to try again. Fourth, cultivate the second wind response. In any arduous endeavor, there comes a point where your mind screams, "Stop." This is often a false summit of exhaustion. Train yourself to recognize this point and to consciously push beyond it. Often, a second wind of energy and resolve is waiting just past that initial wall of resistance. By consistently piercing this barrier, you expand your perceived limits and teach your will that it is capable of far more than your comfort-seeking mind believes. The architecting of an indomitable will is not about seeking pain, but about understanding that growth lies on the other side of resistance. It's about choosing to be the blacksmith of your own character, unafraid to heat the metal of your being in the fires of challenge and hammer it into a tool of extraordinary strength and purpose. With a fortified mind and a forged will, you are prepared for the ongoing campaign, the perpetual war combating mediocrity and the inner saboteur. The attainment of dangerous power is not like conquering a single peak and then resting on your laurels. It's not a 7-day boot camp after which you are permanently fixed. No, it is the sober, clear-eyed declaration of a perpetual, unceasing war against the insidious, ever-present forces of mediocrity, complacency, and your own deeply entrenched inner saboteur. This is the true meaning of spiritual warfare in the context of self-mastery, a relentless internal struggle for the highest expression of your potential. Mediocrity is the gravitational pull of the human condition, the default setting of a world that prizes comfort and conformity. It whispers seductive lullabies of good enough, don't try too hard, it's okay to take it easy. It is the path of least resistance, crowded with those who have settled. Dangerous power demands an absolute, uncompromising rejection of this siren call, not just once, but every single day. It requires a constant vigilance, a renewed commitment with each sunrise to strive for excellence, to push your boundaries, to refuse to become stagnant. The wake-up call isn't a one-time event that jolts you into action. It's the daily discipline of waking yourself up to your own potential and the subtle ways you might be betraying it. Then there is the inner saboteur, the fifth columnist within your own psyche. This is far more than just fleeting negative self-talk. It is an intelligent, adaptive adversary, a composite of your deepest fears, your past failures, your limiting beliefs absorbed from a risk-averse society, and the protective mechanisms of your ego that resist fundamental change. Its primary function is to keep you safe within the familiar confines of your comfort zone, even if that zone is a prison of unfulfilled potential. It will use your own voice, your own logic to argue against your growth. It will magnify risks, downplay rewards, and expertly rationalize procrastination and self-defeating behaviors. To underestimate this internal adversary is a fatal error in the quest for self-mastery. This war is not about cultivating paranoia or self-hatred. It is about fostering a profound, realistic self-awareness. It's about understanding the internal landscape with the cold, calculating eye of a strategist. It's about recognizing that within you reside both the capacity for incredible strength and a persistent tendency towards self-undoing. The path to dangerous power involves a courageous and ongoing confrontation with these darker, weaker aspects of yourself, not to annihilate them in a single glorious battle, but to consistently outmaneuver them, to starve them of the attention and energy they need to thrive, and to strengthen the parts of you that align with your highest aspirations. Imagine a figure I call the internal cartographer. This individual's life work is not the mapping of continents or oceans, but the meticulous ongoing charting of the treacherous and ever-shifting territories of their own inner world. They know that within this personal geography lie dormant volcanoes of old anger, quicksands of self-pity, dense jungles of conditioned fear, and cunning chameleons of rationalization that masquerade as wisdom. The cartographer understands that these regions, if left unexplored and unmanaged, will inevitably encroach upon the cultivated lands of their conscious intentions. Their daily task is to survey these internal borders, to identify emerging threats, a resurgence of an old bad habit, the subtle whisper of a limiting belief, and to deploy countermeasures. They build watchtowers of self-awareness, clear pathways of discipline, and establish strongholds of core values. They understand that the old monarchs, the deposed tyrants of past weaknesses and ingrained negative patterns, are always plotting a return. This mapping, this vigilance, this reclamation and fortification of inner territory is not a phase, it is a lifelong campaign. Victory is measured not in final conquest, but in daily, disciplined resistance and expansion of conscious control. What happens if you declare a ceasefire in this war? If you grow complacent, the erosion is swift and merciless. Gains are lost, old patterns reassert themselves with surprising speed. The inner saboteur, sensing weakness, launches a fresh offensive. You slide back into the comfortable rut of mediocrity, haunted by the bitter taste of what might have been. The saboteur wins not through a decisive battle, but through a war of attrition, by outlasting your resolve. But engage in this war with relentless commitment, and the rewards are cumulative and profound. You achieve sustained growth, not just fleeting bursts of progress. Your self-awareness deepens, allowing you to anticipate and neutralize self-sabotage before it takes root. You learn to operate consistently at your peak, not through sheer willpower alone, but through a well-honed internal system of vigilance and correction. This is how you become truly unrecognizable, by systematically dismantling the old self and actively defending the new, stronger self you are building. How do you wage this perpetual war effectively? First, establish non-negotiable standards of operation. Define with absolute clarity the high standards you will hold for your thoughts, your habits, your integrity, and your effort. These are your battle lines. Treat any deviation not as a minor slip-up, but as a breach of protocol that requires immediate attention and course correction. This isn't about rigid perfectionism, but about a fierce commitment to your own evolution. Second, become a spy master on your inner saboteur. Keep a journal, reflect. When do feelings of self-doubt, procrastination, or the urge to quit most often arise? What are the triggers? What are the specific excuses and rationalizations your saboteur uses? What are its favorite disguises? Understand its tactics, and you strip it of much of its power. Forewarned is forearmed. Third, develop your counterintelligence narrative protocol. For every common attack line used by your inner critic or saboteur, you must have a pre-prepared, powerful counter-narrative. This counter-narrative isn't based on wishful thinking, but on your chosen values, your past successes, however small, and the person you are committed to becoming. When the saboteur says, "This is too hard, you're not smart enough," your counter-narrative, honed and ready, replies, "Difficulty is a prerequisite for growth. My intelligence is not fixed, it expands with effort. I am committed to this process." Fourth, implement a zero-tolerance policy for excuses. Recognize excuses for what they truly are, the saboteur's attempts to negotiate the terms of your surrender. They are the white flags of a compromised will. Grant them no audience. Interrogate every excuse. Is it a genuine obstacle that requires a strategic workaround, or is it a dressed-up desire for comfort and avoidance? In most cases, it's the latter. Shut it down. This perpetual war is the price of freedom, freedom from your own limitations, freedom from mediocrity. It is demanding, yes, but the alternative, a life lived in passive surrender to your lower self, is a far greater tragedy. Finally, this brings us to the grand vision, the understanding that this is a lifelong endeavor, the architecture of enduring transformation beyond fleeting fixes. Dangerous power is not a prefabricated tiny home you can assemble in a weekend, nor is it a cosmetic renovation that merely papers over cracks. It is the meticulous, patient, and lifelong construction of an entirely new self, an awe-inspiring edifice built upon a foundation of unshakable principles, not the shifting sands of fleeting trends or the hollow promises of 7-day fixes. This is the commitment to radical, structural, personal transformation. The modern self-help landscape is littered with the promise of life-changing results in impossibly short timeframes. A week to a new you, 30 days to complete mastery. This appeals to our desire for instant gratification, but it fundamentally misunderstands the nature of profound change. A life changed is not the result of a week-long sprint. It is the cumulative effect of years, even decades, of consistent, intentional effort aligned with deep, core principles. True transformation is not about learning a few new tricks or adopting a couple of new habits superficially. It is about rewiring your baseline operating system, your core programming, the deeply ingrained beliefs, emotional responses, and behavioral patterns that define who you are. This kind of deep architectural work takes time, relentless repetition, and an unwavering commitment that transcends momentary enthusiasm. To become unrecognizable, in the context of dangerous power, is not merely to change your appearance, your job, or your circumstances. It is to alter the very blueprint of your being. It's to change how you think, how you perceive the world, how you respond to adversity, what you value, and what you deem possible for yourself. This philosophy demands a long-term vision. It requires the patience of a master craftsman who understands that quality work cannot be rushed. It necessitates an appreciation for the almost invisible, yet immensely powerful cumulative effect of small, consistent actions performed daily in alignment with your guiding principles. A single strike of the hammer on stone may seem insignificant, but 10,000 such strikes, guided by a clear vision, can build a fortress. You must become the chief architect and the master builder of your own life. This means, first, drafting a clear blueprint. What are your non-negotiable values? What is your ultimate vision for the person you intend to become? What kind of inner strength, resilience, and character do you wish to embody? This blueprint must be reviewed regularly, not as a static document, but as a living guide. Then, with this blueprint in hand, you undertake the daily work of construction, ensuring that every thought you cultivate, every choice you make, every action you take, is a deliberate placement of a stone that contributes to the integrity and grandeur of the final structure. Consider the mindset of a cathedral builder of the soul. Unlike those who erect temporary shelters or chase fleeting trends, this builder is engaged in a monumental, multi-generational project. the construction of an enduring testament to the highest human potential. Their vision extends far beyond their own lifetime. Each stone representing a daily discipline, a conquered fear, a virtuous act, a moment of profound self-awareness, is selected with care and placed with precision. There is no thought of shortcuts, no compromise on quality for the sake of speed. The foundation, consisting of core Stoic principles like the dichotomy of control and the embrace of virtue, is dug deep and made unshakable. The walls, representing habits of mental toughness, emotional resilience, and unwavering integrity, rise slowly brick by painstaking brick. The cathedral builder understands that the process is arduous. They know that progress on any given day might seem imperceptible. But their commitment is not to immediate, visible results, but to the philosophy of sound construction, to the unwavering adherence to the blueprint. They find satisfaction in the act of building itself, in the knowledge that each well-placed stone contributes to a magnificent, enduring structure of dangerous power, a self that is awe-inspiring in its strength, unshakable in its resolve, and profoundly impactful in its presence. This is not a weekend DIY project, it is a life's masterwork. The consequence of succumbing to short-term thinking, of perpetually chasing the next 7-day fix, is a life caught in a frustrating cycle. Temporary highs of enthusiasm inevitably followed by crashes of disappointment. It breeds a collection of unfinished projects, broken resolutions, and the cynical belief that real, lasting change is impossible for you. You become a collector of quick fixes, but remain fundamentally unchanged. But commit to the long-term architecture, to the philosophy of the cathedral builder, and the outcome is a deep, authentic, and enduring transformation. You cultivate a quiet, unshakable confidence that comes not from arrogance, but from the visceral knowledge that you are meticulously building something truly substantial, something real. Your life takes on a profound sense of purpose, fueled by the continuous process of growth and self-mastery. How do you adopt this architectural mindset? First, define your cathedral, your long-term vision. What is the ultimate expression of the self you wish to build? What character traits will define it? What impact will it have? Write this down, make it vivid. This is your North Star. Second, embrace process over outcome the Stoic way. While your grand vision is crucial, your daily focus must be on the meticulous execution of the process. Fall in love with the daily disciplines, the consistent application of your principles. As the Stoics taught, focus on what is within your control, your effort, your choices, your responses. The outcome will take care of itself if the process is sound. Third, adopt the decade review perspective. When faced with significant choices or even daily temptations that conflict with your blueprint, ask yourself, will this action, this habit, this mindset contribute positively to the person I am committed to becoming in 10, 20, 30 years? This long-range perspective effortlessly filters out most short-term, impulse-driven behaviors that sabotage deep change. Fourth, practice iteration, not paralyzing perfectionism. The master architect constantly reviews and refines the plans as construction progresses. They learn from unexpected challenges and adapt. Similarly, you must allow for course corrections in your own journey. Mistakes will happen. Setbacks are inevitable. View them as opportunities to learn, to refine your approach, to strengthen your resolve. But never abandon the construction site. Never stop building. This long-term architectural approach is the antithesis of the 7-day fix. It requires patience, perseverance, and a deep faith in the power of sustained, principled effort. So let's be brutally honest. The core philosophy behind Dangerous Power is not a collection of life hacks or a temporary motivational boost. It is a profound, demanding, and deeply rewarding way of life. It requires you to first seize control of your inner citadel, forging an unconquered mind. It demands you willingly step into the crucible of deliberate hardship to architect an indomitable will. It calls you to wage a perpetual war against the insidious forces of mediocrity and your own inner saboteur. And finally, it asks you to become the patient, meticulous architect of an enduring transformation, building a cathedral of character, stone by stone, over the course of your life. This is not easy. If it were, everyone would possess this power. But the difficulty is precisely what gives it value. This is your definitive wake-up call. Abandon the seductive illusion of effortless, instantaneous change. Embrace the empowering, challenging reality of disciplined effort, unwavering commitment, and the steadfast application of these timeless principles. Do not let this be just another video you consume and forget. Internalize these philosophies. Choose one principle, just one, and begin today, not to try it out for a week, but to integrate it as a new, non-negotiable foundation stone in the architecture of your life. Stop seeking fixes from the outside. The true power, the dangerous power to become unrecognizable to your former self, to break free from your limitations, to master your mind and unleash your full potential, already resides within you. It is not waiting to be found. It is waiting to be meticulously sculpted, forged, and built by your own conscious, disciplined hand. This is your invitation. Stop being a passive consumer of quick fixes and become an active creator of your own formidable self. It's time to build your fortress, forge your will, fight your war, and construct your cathedral. The real work, the work that matters, the work that lasts, begins now. Unleash that power. Become dangerous, dangerous to your mediocrity, dangerous to your excuses, dangerous to every limiting belief that has ever held you captive.